What's really striking me is so much conversation happens at this festival about how do we get things seen and how do we have impact. And the tools that are at our fingertips to reach people were not available 25 years ago. And yet you are describing bringing what seem like divine and ancestral inputs and being incredibly present for the situation and each other. And that is work that only artists know how to do. There's no technology that can replicate what you're describing. And yet, when we think about innovation as changing the way people feel about themselves, the way they feel about each other, the way they feel about our future, you were innovating from before the whole thing came together. And so, Saul, you had a really interesting reflection about that.
I know what you're talking about. Look, I just want to be really clear on the fact, and I said it because I loved what you said. You said we want to distinguish innovation from the technology discussion.
That's right.
And I think that's important because we are the technology.
That's
right? And poetry is code, you know? And, you know, like Anisia and I did a film that was here last year called Neptune Frost, where we looked at the drum as the first form of wireless communication. So that when we look at modern devices, as long as they are dependent on those unnamed workforces in the Congo, as long as they are dependent on all of these resources, I'm not impressed with that as technology. Because technology is supposed to move us forward, not continue some sort of analog exploitation that has gone on ever since. And so the technology that we represent through poetry, through coding, language, it can be ignored, it can be slept on, it can be renamed slam, it can be renamed spoken word, you can call it whatever the fuck you want. But I promise you, the poets are here, and what we did, Sonja, and when I say we, I mean, the reason why this film worked the way it did is because the poetry community is in this film. There's so many extraordinary poets that are, whether they're in the background, whether in the audience, they're in this film. They supported us. It wasn't the sort of thing where the poetry community said, the real shit is da-da. We went in there representing the real shit, and then Momolu came there for the motherfuckers who would never go to a poetry reading because it sounded too whatever, but they heard Momolu and were like, oh, this is the real shit. You know? You grounded us in that, right? And that technology of connection, of how to connect, right? Like I said, there are literally thousands of people across the world who say, I began writing poetry when I saw that film. They may even laugh about it now, like, yeah, I did about 5 years on the Poetry Slam circuit before I became a teacher, before I became this, before I went in this direction. But it wasn't about them remaining in that zone for the rest of their lives. It was about providing a tool that would help them express themselves and find a way to their truest selves. That's what this film represents. That's what poetry represents. That's what Momolu, Sonja, Marc's work. Because for Marc, it's not just about slam. Every single one of his films is dedicated to the destruction of this motherfucking system. And the Marxist ideology that raised him is, you know, it seeps through the motherfucking work. Am I wrong? So it's just important to realize that there is always, and like I said, I was in acting school. The dream was fucking Hollywood, but not fitting in, saying, no, art is powerful. Art can mean something. Art can change lives. Art can progress society. Art can uplift society. Art can free fucking life sentences. Art, yes, the lawyers play their role. Yes, the activists play their role. Yes, we all play our role. The school teachers, everybody has to play their role. Art is to remind you of the purpose of playing that role.
Lay it down, bro.
Fuck y'all.
Is that it?
for those of you at home, we're all going to need a minute.